Hello, world. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is Thursday, March 12th. I am back in the United States of America from a whirlwind trip to Amsterdam in Netherlands. It was amazing. We discussed it yesterday on the SJ Show, and it is just so great to be back with all of you today. I am self-producing the SJ Show today, live from New York. We're on Rumble, Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, every podcast platform you can imagine. The amazing, beautiful, talented Inez Annie Cyrus is en route. She has an appearance this weekend, so she's traveling, unable to produce the Shannon Joy Show, but we are praying for her and safe travels. Annie is releasing a new book. I can't wait to have her in on the SJ Show as a guest. She has put so much time and effort into this amazing production, and we're going to hear all about it. But in the meantime, let's wish her safe travels, and she will be back on Monday with all of you. How is everyone doing today? Big headlines. You see the headline of the SJ Show. Trump's lockdown 2.0. Beware the Ides of March, right? Every March, every time we hit mid-March, especially since the lockdowns of 2020, when everything just fell apart and the entire world changed forever. I'm always a little nervous in March, and this one might take the cake in 2026. It just seems as if everything is incredibly precarious. There is fear porn everywhere, and many are talking about potential lockdowns because of the energy crisis, the AI crisis, cyber attacks, drone swarms attacking the West Coast, taking out key infrastructure in terms of connection and internet connection. You name it, everything is there. And the fear porn is just ramping up all over social media, predominantly on the Twit, which is absolutely infested with AI bots and trolls and paid accounts, paid influencers. You never know who is or what is the agenda behind the influencer or the bot farm, but it is relentless, and it is tailored to each and every one of us because, as we know, Elon Musk has been collecting an enormous amount of data on the users of Twitter for the better part of the past 3.5 years. And now they are deploying that against us, it seems to me. We're going to talk about that today. But before we get to it, among other news items, I have a lot to get to. I want to give you a very important Summit for Truth and Wellness update. With 9 days to go, there are only 80 tickets remaining. And if you want to attend, you're going to have to get them ASAP. Of course, we are welcoming William Makis, Sasha Latipova, and Dr. Mary Talley Bowden live to Rochester, New York for Full Day Summit on March 21st. It is not this Saturday, but next Saturday. And I cannot wait to meet all of you. It is to benefit Americans for Healthcare Alternatives. And you can grab your tickets at www.summitfortruth.com. That is summitfortruth.com to grab your tickets before they sell out. And they're moving very, very quickly. I am so excited to meet all of you, to see all of you, and we're going to have a great program for you guys. We are going to check out the live chat and say hello to all of you in just a moment. But an overview of today's show, there is growing sentiment across social media, and especially within the independent media community. And there are giants emerging in independent media outside of the left or right paradigm, which is right where we are here in the SJ Show. The news, commentary, updates, culture, every day live, not left, not right, just the truth. And there are many like me out there. There's growing sentiment that Trump's war with Iran is largely theater, and any attack on U.S. soil will likely be a false flag event. And the most recent We are seeing so many right-leaning influencers and news media outlets talking about potential drone attacks on the West Coast. Iran apparently is going to launch a swarm of terror drones to attack everyone on the West Coast. This was reported by ABC News yesterday, and we've seen it picked up by the fear porn agitators and instigators out there on social media. Many believe that any type of event here in the United States will be a false flag event driven by our own malicious, psychopathic leaders within the United States government. Obviously, the goal, like every goal, is to ramp up the fear and the desperation to justify, once again, a larger expansion of their power and control. Well, who is they? Is always the question that people ask when we talk about the they. And that's actually quite complicated. It's simple, but it's complicated. But what is emerging, what appears to be emerging, is that there are multiple factions, power factions across the globe, some centralized here in the US, intelligence agencies, the military industrial complex, the financial industrial complex, which would be the banksters. We have big billionaire families that are spreading their money around in different ways, different agendas. And all of that is behind some of the front-facing things that we're seeing in the theater of war, right? And so pinning down which faction is doing what and who's warring with who is quite difficult. We're going to attempt to do that on the show in future shows with some of our expert guests. But central to all of this is the Epstein files. And they are a key center point in understanding and exposing the global power factions who are driving this instability. So the job of you and me, we come here every day, we meet together, we're the little guys, right? We're just like dangling in the breeze, all right? They're all out there waging war against each other and sometimes against us, and we're just trying to survive with our 401k or our retirement intact and some semblance of liberty and a future for our children, right? And so what do we need to do? We have to refuse to be afraid. That's first and foremost. We have to continue to organize and build and survive while these power factions hopefully destroy one another before they destroy all of us. And I think that is what we're witnessing today. And there are many opinions, many ideas about how this is going to play out. But what I will tell you is that typically they run their operations within specific geographic theaters of war. And so it doesn't often, 99% of us across the globe are not going to suffer likely from mass violence or a terror attack or some horrifying thing, right? Or any of the agenda items that they have on the list to frighten us. But they are going to deploy these things in order to convey or trick the global population into thinking that there is a new justification for increased surveillance, AI surveillance, the expansion of the technocratic police state, a digital ID, a digital currency, you name it. And so our job really is just to refuse that. And that's why we come together every day, so that we can, with a clear mind and clear-headed thinking, outside of the two-party political propaganda perspectives, understand what is happening today in the world and do things that will help us to survive and thrive. And that's really the mission of the Shannon Joy Show. And I want to thank all of you for supporting me and in these efforts. We truly do live in extraordinary times. And just because these operations happen within a theater of war, just because they're manufactured, doesn't necessarily mean that they are not dangerous to all of us. We saw how dangerous the operation of COVID-19, the global, worldwide, deadly pandemic and the countermeasures, how deadly that was for so many Americans. So there are very real consequences to all of this. But what I have learned is it's never quite as bad as how I envision it. And there are always ways out. There's always a way to resist, to refuse, to say no, and to reject whatever it is that they seek to influence us with. So, Buskman, I see you on the live chat. Let's say hello to everyone. I have a lot here. We have a lot of articles to get to today and get through. A great piece from Doc Malik. By the way, next week, big lineup of guests in the Shannon Joy Show. Michael Yan will be joining us next week. Emerald Robinson is booked next week on the SJ Show. Very interesting developments that she is uncovering regarding the influencer class, those who you see every day, reporting to you every day, acting as if they are conservative or America first. Well, they're being paid, and Emerald Robinson is doing some great work on that. She also has a really clear handle, I think, on what is going on geopolitically with the Iran war, also what is happening financially, as does Michael Yan. So we will be welcoming Emerald and Michael in next week. I am also working on Doc Malik. I want to bring him in again next week because he is spot on. I have a piece right here from Doc Malik that I'm going to lead the show off with. It is linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. He is on point, absolutely on point. Getting to the truth these days is like balancing on the head of a pin. It's difficult because we are in the middle of two relentless or more propaganda efforts. And there is so much fake news out there, deep fake news, so many angles and agendas, paid agendas that are posing as truth. It's very difficult for a normal person to figure things out. And so when I say it's difficult to not only digest the news headlines, but also digest the news headlines in context of the multiple streams of propaganda, it becomes even more difficult. Doc Malik is doing a phenomenal job from across the pond. And I am also working on Fiona Rose as well. I mentioned her yesterday, another correspondent from the UK, one of the most talented organizers from the bottom up in the UK. I met her in the Netherlands just a couple days ago. She's absolutely amazing. And we're going to recap and revisit that court case with Fiona. And so I'm still working on her as well. Also, Derek Rose, I want to bring him in. So we have a big lineup of guests for next week. So make sure if you are not subscribed to the SJ email list, do that right now. Please go to theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com, and sign up for my daily e-news blast. It gives you all of the news of the day that I use for my show, the headlines that are most important from my perspective, and also an overview of what we're doing on the live show so that you never miss a show. It also keeps me connected to all of you. So for those of you, the 52,000 of you who've already signed up for the SJ email blast, thank you so much. And if you haven't done that yet, make sure that you do so that you do not miss a single episode. And any of the independent journalists, analysts, scientists, commentators that we bring to the show every day, because it's not just about my perspective. It's about going out as an editor, to be frank, and sifting through all of the bullshit and finding the clearest, most concise and consistent voices out there on a whole host of topics. Financial matters, economic matters, geopolitics, domestic politics, healthcare, you name it, the technology and AI. We have the best people, and you guys know that for sure. So let's begin on today's show. I think we hit all of the housekeeping for today. First and foremost, let's thank everyone who's watching. If you're on Substack, I'm so glad that you're here. We're growing the Substack audience and bringing the SJ Show live to Substack viewers every single day. You guys are amazing. Unfortunately, I can't see your comments on Substack today because we don't have Annie producing the show, but I'm glad you're here. Also, YouTube, amazing growth on YouTube as well. We are live on Twitter and, of course, the Rumble live chat. The feistiest, kindest, smartest, most amazing live chatters in all of Rumble. You guys look great today, and I want to say hello to all of you. Please give this show a thumbs up, share it, leave a comment. That helps us with the algorithm. CM1968, so good to see you today. Guitar Lily, I am so glad that you are here. Be My Valentine joins us. Mark the Regan. Zen Woman is with us today. Mama C1996. And I know that so many of you are coming to the summit next Saturday. I can't wait to meet you. We're going to have so much fun. A beautiful luncheon at a beautiful venue and amazing guests. Dr. Mary Taylor Bowden live, Sasha Latipova, and of course, William Makis. So that's super exciting. Who else do we have here? Just a couple more hellos. If you're new to the live chat, or if you're new to the Shannon Joy Show on Rumble, please say hello, because I love saying hello to all of you. Lou Melcom is with us. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I bought a Tyndale Children's Bible. I was raised Catholic and never read it. Lou Melcom, I am so excited. One more piece of housekeeping. Tomorrow morning, we are going live. I'm going to be live with all of you for Rumble Premium viewers. It is coffee and the Bible with me, a little morning Bible study for premium content or premium members here on Rumble. And I am so, we did one of those broadcasts last week, and we just had a great conversation. So I'm super pumped about that. I love the Tyndale Children's Bible. If you are interested in reading the Bible chronologically from Genesis to the book of Revelation, this is the best way to do it for me. I've read the Bible chronologically multiple times, and it's a tough read. It is a tough read. And the Tyndale Children's Bible it's just a beautiful translation that is so understandable. And for your first read, if you're new, even if you're not a Christian and you just kind of want to understand what the Bible's all about, it's a really good starting point. So Lou Melcom, that is so excited. It is not in production. You have to get it used, but they usually have a bunch of used copies. I have like 3 or 4 of them floating around my house. So you can go to Amazon and find used copies and buy them there. Just a beautiful book. Mark the Regan, if you're still a normie at this point, I don't know what to tell you. Buskman, I see you. You rock, Shannon. Thanks, Buskman. You do too. Cannot wait to meet you next week. Wag Todd, brand new chatter. Hello, everyone from Central Pennsylvania. I love Pennsylvania. Little known fact, I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A lot of people don't know that. Allegheny Hospital. And my mom and dad were both from Pittsburgh. Just outside, about 30 minutes outside of Pittsburgh in the West Deer Township. And I absolutely love Pennsylvania. Love Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is one of my all-time favorite cities. Probably, maybe my all-time favorite city. It's just amazing. So who else do we have? Clones, great to see you as well on the live chat. Edgar615, great to see you. All right, Max Glickman, let's get going. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to go through. Oh, sorry, Guitar Lily, take the papers off the computer. They are scraping against the mic. Sorry about that, everyone. The perils of self-production. Hopefully, I'll be able to figure out how to turn my mic back on when we come back from this commercial break because, well, I always have trouble with that. Hells Bay is with us from Texas. Great to see you on this beautiful, fine pre-Friday. So make sure you join us. We're going to start around 8:30 a.m. tomorrow with our little Bible study, and I think it's going to be super fun. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into the news of the day. We have a lot to talk about. Epstein files, a major Trump-Kushner associate, 3 of them, the brothers, Alexander brothers, were convicted for sex trafficking. Really stunning case here. Just, another horrifying sex trafficking operation that is closely linked to the Trumps and to Jared Kushner, who is married to Trump's daughter, Ivanka. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at other new elements. Another one bites the dust in the Epstein file revelations. The war with Iran took the Epstein list off the headlines for a little while, but it's roaring back. And we saw a lot of billionaires going down in the UK and across the pond, but it looks like it's coming here to the United States of America, and that's a great thing. Steve Tisch, he was the former head of the New York Giants, is now transferring ownership to the franchise after an explosive working girl email correspondent with Jeffrey Epstein. And so hopefully this is just one of many, many, many more to come. We're going to take a look at what's happening with that Epstein list. Killer drones in California. What do we make of that? Changes to the draft. Ron Paul put out a post yesterday. This is linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. Quietly, in the most recent NDAA, that's the Defense Authorization Bill that was passed during Christmas time. Buried in that was language which changed how we collect and we get young men signed up for the draft, which is concerning many out there about potential boots on the ground and whether or not Donald Trump is going to send our boys, potentially draft our boys into another needless war in Iran. We're going to take a look at that. And also, the 40,000 foot vantage point from Doc Malik and Emerald Robinson. She had a good little editorial. Maria Z on lockdown 2.0, right? It is the Ides of March, and it appears that across the globe, we are beginning to see eerily similar verbiage regarding locking down because of an energy crisis, because of the war, because of oil, all kinds of things. Maria Z had a good report that she pushed out yesterday, which is also, I believe, linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. If it isn't, just follow Maria Z on Twitter. She's another one I need to have on pretty soon. So we're going to be talking about that and more. We are continuing to witness the private credit collapse, which appears now to threaten millions of Americans' 401ks and retirements, especially those who have pensions. I want to point you guys to a show I did last week with Tiffany Cianci, which I might run again, which explains exactly what is happening within private equity and within private credit. But this is huge. And it is a signal that the economy is quickly unraveling. We're going to take a look at that as well. But of course, Trump, the plunderer in chief, is as he plunders here in the United States of America, drives our economy off a cliff, is making sure that the pockets are lined for his business associates, cronies, friends, and family. And it's pretty disgusting. So we're going to take a look at some of that as well when we come back right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Hey everyone, I am so proud to recommend Schiff Gold to this audience as the gold standard for metals purchasing and investing. I couldn't ask for a better partner to help people understand gold and silver and use them as strategic instruments to protect their family's financial future. Peter Schiff's teaching on markets has shaped my understanding of how economies grow and why they collapse. And I've used him as a critical source for my daily broadcast for over 10 years. The Shannon Joy Show audience already knows and loves Peter because he has been such a treasured educator over the years. He is now the preeminent source for rock-solid financial analysis around the world. And this is because he understands the immutable laws of natural markets and his stalwart unwillingness to veer from absolute truths regardless of economic fads and political pressures. Bottom line, he doesn't sell out. And that means a lot to me. I trust Schiff Gold, and you can too. Go to schiffgold.com/joy today to get started. You'll find some of the lowest spot prices for gold and silver and critical information on protecting your retirement savings with a gold or silver IRA. That's www.schiffgold.com/joy. Hedge against the chaos with our friends over at Schiff Gold. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Figured out the audio situation. My mic wasn't turned on, so you guys were picking up my computer audio. The audio should be better now, hopefully. Thank you, of course, to Peter Schiff and the entire team over at Schiff Gold. Things are very unsteady right now. The economy is hanging by a thread. This is why so many people are diving into the metals, into the shiny, and you guys can do that at schiffgold.com/joy. Learn all about it and make sure you use my URL so that Peter knows that I sent you. So let's start with Epstein Files updates here, because we saw the release of the Epstein Files, again, millions upon millions upon millions of files that will take an enormous amount of time to go through. But every day there is a new revelation. There is a new billionaire that is going down because of the revelations from the Epstein Files. And this is severely disrupting the billionaire class, which is a good thing. Even if we aren't seeing criminal prosecutions, criminal investigations, perp walks, and convictions of criminals who are trafficking children, raping children, committing financial crimes, committing all sorts of crimes. We are seeing the pressure begin to come to bear on many very, very high profile figures. The most recent is, of course, Steve Tisch, who is the New York Giants owner. He is stepping down. And here is what's going on. The documents released by U.S. Department of Justice have now implicated New York Giants co-owner and film producer Steve Tisch. He's implicated in a series of emails with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And he has now announced, or it has been announced, that they are going to begin the process of trying to transfer his ownership, I guess, or his stake in the New York Giants franchise to his children. We'll see if that works. But here's the extent of the communication between Tisch and Jeffrey Epstein. A huge volume of mentions. His name was mentioned over 440 times at this point in the 3 million documents that have been released by the Justice Department. These go back to 2013, which was after everyone knew that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile. And it centers on, it's heavily centered in 2013, where they discussed scheduling meetings, philanthropy, investments, and apparently Jeffrey Epstein hooked Tisch up with multiple women, unsure about the ages, but used terms like working girl, a pro or civilian, and also in one exchange, Epstein advised Tisch that a woman, or maybe a girl, was a little freaked out by the age difference and recommended that he go slow. Is disgusting, really creepy. And we don't know if there was any criminal wrongdoing, but this has now been enough to compel him to step down. And that is a good thing. And when I say it's disrupting the billionaire class, it's disrupting major parts of those shadow power centers that are destabilizing the United States of America today. And I mentioned them in the first segment. We have the intelligence agencies, the Five Eyes, we have the military industrial complex, we have the financial industrial complex, we have the tech industrial complex, we have corporate interests, we have factions, global factions, and power families that act almost as if they are cartels, criminal cartels. And all of this is kind of swirling. A lot of it is centralized around Jeffrey Epstein. And so this could be why we're seeing one reason that we're seeing so much instability today. But regarding the Epstein files, I mean, these are big names that have been taken down just since the release in January. And we have to continue to push for more. We have to resist the fear porn and any fear of what's going down in Iran, which is another theater of war, and focus on continuing to expose and take down people who were doing horrifying things over the past few decades. But here's just a short list. Prince Andrew, again, has been stripped of his titles. Peter Mandelson, Brad Karp, Kathy Rumler, former Goldman Sachs chief legal officer. She's ex-Obama White House counsel. She resigned from Goldman Sachs, and email show a very friendly exchange with Jeffrey Epstein. So she's not even accused of any wrongdoing. It is just the proximity of Epstein after everyone knew he was a pedophile that's taking these people down. We have Casey Wasserman. She's a talent agency CEO. She announced that she's closing her agency or selling her agency as of February 13th, 2026, after client fallout. So clients are getting antsy here. Peter Adia, Sarah Ferguson. I mean, we have a lot of people. And then, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Leon Black. I mean, none of these guys are safe. Les Wexner has been deposed. Obviously, the Clintons. And then, of course, we have others like Howard Lutnick and Steve Tisch. And there are still calls. I mean, there are calls for Howard Lutnick to step down as well. And that'd be a nice scalp to take, to be honest, because Howard Lutnick is I mean, at this point, he looks like one of Trump's handlers. I mean, he is firmly embedded in the Great Reset, in collapsing our currency and forcing Americans onto the digital dollar, setting up the infrastructure so that they can plunder off of the disasters. And so, this is continuing to roll out. We also have, another story of just horrifying sex trafficking ring of brothers, Orrin Alexander, Tal Alexander, and Alon Alexander, all in their 30s, brothers convicted just a couple days ago in Manhattan after a 6-week trial. And this case involved allegations of sex trafficking and related crimes spanning over a decade, starting around 2010. These were close, they're real estate gurus and close associates of Jared Kushner. And so lots of connections between Jared and Ivanka going back, I mean, many, many years. But yeah, here's just one. In April 2021, Ivanka and Jared purchased a $24 million waterfront mansion in Florida. And these guys served as their agents and brokers for the deal. And broader reports describe the brothers as having worked with Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner on many real estate matters. They are noted as having multiple business and social ties to the Trump family, including celebrity client lists that overlap. There are mentions and discussions of the brother's surname being redacted in some Epstein-related files. So it looks like Orrin Alexander, Tal Alexander, Alon Alexander, just convicted of sex crimes. They face 7 charges. Tal faced 7 charges. Orrin and Alon each face 6. And they are related to trafficking and other criminal conduct involving 7 victims. These guys were like New York City, Manhattan playboys. Okay. Once again, the allegations are that their names were redacted from the Epstein files to cover up for them any association with Epstein. And this was done at the request of the Trump administration or the Trump family. Okay, so this was the point. This was the point that everyone was making about all of the redactions and the refusal to release the files. This is why Donald Trump slow played and tried to play the Epstein files off as a Democratic hoax, which was absurd. It is to cover up for people like this, men like this, who are now convicted sex criminals. And this is what they did. Prosecutors alleged, and they're now convicted, that the brothers used a consistent playbook to lure women and girls to exclusive parties and events in luxury locations like New York, the Hamptons, Las Vegas, and onto cruises. Never get onto a cruise with a billionaire, ever. That is a rule for life. Never go out on open waters. Anyway, cruises where they were drugged, isolated, and raped. They described the brothers as masquerading as party boys, but acting with callousness and a perverse sense of entitlement. 11 women testified during the trial that one or more of the brothers sexually abused them. So this is yet another. We got Diddy. We have the Tate brothers. We have Epstein. Donald Trump mentioned, thousands of times within Epstein files. And now we have the Alexander brothers just convicted. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And the fact that Christian conservatives continue to cover for these people and to claim that Donald Trump is some sort of savior-like character is insane to me. Insane to me. Yeah, Mark the Regan, Les Wexner. That is a hard name to say. I always go back between Lex Wessner and Les Wexner, and it just does not roll off the tongue. Anyway, you know who he is. And yeah, his deposition was a joke. Les had the privilege of having the investigators come to him in the comfort of his own home rather than testifying in court or in front of the committee in Washington, D.C. But so this is important. We also, I don't know if you guys saw this. I'm not going to do it today. It's an 8-minute video, Joe Rogan and Michael Schellenberger. Now, Michael Schellenberger, apparently, I've heard his name thrown around. Apparently, he was somewhat sympathetic to the cause of the medical freedom movement or the anti-lockdown movement. I'm not sure what the connection is there, but people in on our team, I suppose, liked Michael Schellenberger. Well, Michael Schellenberger is shilling hard for not only Epstein, but Epstein clients and dismissing the Epstein documents as a real scandal. And he had the audacity to go on Joe Rogan. And it's an exercise. I mean, the video that I watched that is, I'm not going to torment you all with today, but we might look at a snippet of it tomorrow. It was literally 8 minutes of Michael Schellenberger completely gaslighting Joe Rogan on what are very real and legitimate questions about what happened to Jeffrey Epstein on the night of his suicide in a federal prison in New York State. And Joe Rogan is like making all of these, there are all of these points, all of these facts, all of these well-known facts about what happened that night that would cause any reasonable person with 2 brain cells to question the official narrative and storyline that came from William Barr, who was at the time the Attorney General of the United States of America, and what happened on that date. And this is leading many to speculate that Epstein certainly did not suicide himself. He may have been murdered. What's that all about? And he may not have been murdered. He might still be alive. So that, all of these questions, the camera wasn't working. He was in the jail cell with a convicted murderer who was also a contract killer, which was the nature of the conversation between Joe Rogan and Michael Schellenberger. Very mysterious transfers of money to one of the guards who worked within the prison and some shenanigans there. I mean, there's a lot there. There's so much there that would warrant further investigation. And what was extraordinary about the exchange between Schellenberger and Rogan was just how blatantly and obviously he gaslit Joe Rogan. It was like a textbook example of extreme gaslighting, like literally sitting across from a person and you're looking out into the world and, telling them that the grass is blue and the sky is green. And they're saying to you, no, the sky is blue and the grass is green. No. The grass is blue and the sky is green. Like over and over and over, 8 minutes relentlessly until Joe Rogan lost his mind. He just lost it. But this guy has a lot of influence. And there was an overview by Red Panda Koala, whoever they are, but they were the one that pushed out some of these clips on the Schellenberger Rogan interview. Just disgusting how this guy is severely running cover for Jeffrey Epstein. Just an overview. He said that Epstein was just joking around when he said he trafficked children. All right. It's all a big joke. It's just it went from a Democrat hoax to just a big joke, according to the disgusting Michael Schellenberger. He also said that Epstein saying he killed research into cold fusion and clean limitless energy. He said that Israel doesn't have dirt on Trump. He says that Epstein was not an intelligence asset. He says that Epstein had less influence than anyone thinks, which is insane. Schellenberger says it's not fair to shame people who met with Epstein after he was convicted of sex crimes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Michael Schellenberger. He says that there are problems with the Epstein victims. They can't be trusted. Just outrageous. So the fact that they're trotting out Michael Schellenberger probably means that war forevermore, Iran war, all the things, super scary drones, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. The AI robots are taking over. None of you are going to have a job. Like all of the relentless fear porn that they are pummeling us with, right? To maybe take some attention off of the Epstein list and the Epstein emails isn't working. because poor Michael Schellenberger now has to go out and do all of the podcasts. I don't mean poor Michael Schellenberger. There's probably a special place in hell for Michael Schellenberger because he is the lead shill for Jeffrey Epstein. But the fact that they have to send him out to do this on Joe Rogan, if he's on Joe Rogan, there's like a thing there. There's a reason. And I don't know why people trusted Schellenberger or what his relationship was to the medical freedom community. But yeah, the bloom is off that rose for sure. So this is all good news, right? I mean, there's a lot to be afraid of out there and a lot of uncertainty and chaos. But I think a lot of that has to do with a panicked and an increasingly fractured global order of billionaires, power brokers, and really bad people. Whatever stranglehold or grip that they had on our government institutions, our politicians, our culture, our businesses, our markets is at this point, it seems to be falling apart. And there's no better example. Have you guys seen what is going on in Dubai? I'm not going to get into that in detail today, but wow, if you look at some of the videos, people are absolutely, in droves. Dubai is empty. And it was largely made up of British expats who were looking for a tax-free tech haven, very weird kind of governmental structure. It's kind of a corporate, it's not a country, really. It's like a corporate entity, very shady. And it is being absolutely pummeled in the war with Iran. Again, Dubai, another theater of war. But people are absolutely fleeing. Everyone is leaving, and it's an absolute ghost town there. So again, that was one of those theaters that all of the movers and shakers and the big people who want to reset the globe and own everything, you have nothing, you're not happy, and you're eating the bugs, those people, apparently their safe haven is completely falling apart. And they are, the scenes at the airports of people trying to get out, and the scenes now of Dubai completely, it looks like lockdowns. It looks like lockdowns 2020. And that is going to lead into the next discussion that we're going to have. A report out from Maria Z, very disturbing. Governments across the world are suddenly reviving policies that look eerily familiar. Remote work mandates, travel discouragement, and fuel rationing, all triggered by a rapidly escalating global energy crisis. And this is happening because they have shut down the Strait of Hormuz. This is why we're seeing skyrocketing fuel prices here in the US and across the globe. This is why all of the pipelines and the supply lines and everything that makes the economy churn and burn is grinding once again, seemingly to a halt, very reminiscent of 2020. Is it any coincidence that we're in the Ides of March, second term of Trump's second administration? The psychopath who locked us down in 2020, we stupidly reelected because too many in the medical freedom community believed that he would do something differently. And because Bobby Kennedy Jr. followed him into the belly of the beast in Washington, D.C. And so we gave him the keys to the castle again. Is it any surprise that it looks as if this bastard is going to lock us down again in some way, this time with justification that is not involving a global, worldwide pandemic that's going to kill everyone, but war and the fallout from war. So we're going to look at Maria Z's piece, and then we're going to look at Doc Malik's piece, one of the clearest messages of understanding about what we're dealing with today. I want to make sure we get to that today. Again, Maria Z, I'm going to reach out to have her on my show again, Doc Malik as well, because we haven't talked to them in a while. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue this discussion here on the SJ Show. I want to hear from all of you, so make sure you pop up your comments and questions in the live chat on Rumble. I see all of you on Twitter and YouTube watching, those of you on Substack, so glad that you are here. Can't see your comments on the live chats, unfortunately, because my producer Annie isn't with us today, but we will make sure that we get your comments and your questions next week. But for those of you who are on Rumble, I see you. So if you have comments or questions, please pop them up. We'll hit them when we come back, and we'll continue with the news of the day. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you in a minute right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Hey everyone, I just want to take a moment to thank one of my longtime friends, associates, my financial advisor, and a beloved sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show, Don Polano over at PCM and Associates. Don Polano, as many of you know, was the very first Shannon Joy Show advertiser almost 12 years ago, and he's been with us ever since. I trust Don Polano. He manages some of my assets and my retirement fund, and he's offering his services to all of you. He can take clients anywhere in the country and even across the globe over at PCM and Associates. And as you guys know, it is so important today. There's so much volatility and chaos. You need a human being, a person that you trust, and a person that shares your values. And that's Don Polano at PCM and Associates. So if you are looking for someone to help you manage your retirement or have investment advice, please consider calling Don Polano over at PCM and Associates. His number, 1-800-536-1368. That's 1-800-536-1368. And of course, you can go to pcmpolano.com. That is pcmpolano.com to learn about all of his services and get in contact with his team. Again, so thankful for Don Polano at PCM and Associates, and I think that you are really going to appreciate his services. So that number again, 1-800-536-1368 for a financial advisor that you can trust. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. I absolutely adore Don Polano. He's one of my favorite people on the face of this planet. He's absolutely awesome. So yeah, check him out, pcmpolano.com, pcmpolano.com. If you have a question or comment, pop it up in the live chat. I see all of you on the live chat. Mark the Reagan. Epstein was just an average guy who got lucky, making some good financial decisions. He's like our neighbor down the street. Nothing to see here, right? Nothing to see here. Yeah, KC1212, I see you. The Naomi Wolf Derek Bros debate was very interesting, and Naomi is getting a lot of flack for it. I absolutely love Naomi Wolf. We don't agree on all things. She platforms the SJ Show on Daily Clout. And she and Derek Bros had a debate about the U.S. involvement in the Iran war. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was an excellent discussion. People didn't appreciate her tactics. She really focused on the fact that Derek Bros, who's a U.S. citizen but living in Mexico, is not living in the U.S. and is not voting. And so she devoted a large part of the beginning of the debate to that. And some people they didn't take offense to it, but they just didn't like that tactic. But I thought Derek handled it very well. I thought Derek made a very compelling argument. And I disagree with Naomi on her position on the U.S. involvement in the war in Iran. So we can still be friends. Here's the great thing about discourse and ideas and opinions and friends. You can still be friends and disagree with people. But I see you, Casey. I watched Naomi and Derek debate, and she really disappointed me by ignoring the technocracy aspect. Yeah, I didn't agree, and but she is entitled to her opinion. And Naomi is the kind of girl that will sit down with people who oppose her opinions and have a discussion about it, and that's what they did. So I think that was very worthwhile, and I agree with Derek Bros. So I thought Derek did a great job, and I hope to have Derek on my program sometime soon. And Naomi too, of course. She's always welcome on the SJ Show. Let's take a look at Maria Z's piece, because it is March 12th, 2026. Almost 6 years to the date from the lockdowns of 2020. Once again, we find ourselves in the midst of a Trump administration, Trump presidency, chaos reigns. And it appears, there's a lot out there, but it appears that we are looking at language that is eerily reminiscent of the lockdowns of 2020. And frankly, as the girl that advised no one to vote for the psychopath who locked us down in the first place a second time, because guess what? He'll do it again. That fell on deaf ears within the Republican Party, conservative media, and also the medical freedom movement. And everyone just barreled along, hoping and praying that somehow it would be different this time with a new Trump administration. Well, that is coming crashing down on everyone's heads. And we have people like Brett Weinstein now, going out and admitting he was wrong about everything. Multiple influencer accounts on Twitter admitting they were wrong about everything, right? When they were the ones that were driving the narrative to reelect Trump in the first place. It was insane. And I called it out. And unfortunately, for everyone, for myself included and my children, I was right. And those who continued to critique Donald Trump for the tyrant that he is were also right. And so now, surprise, surprise, here we are again, right? Chaos, only it's worse. And it looks as if we're moving into 2.0, lockdown 2.0, Trump style. This is what Maria Z had to say about that. Governments across the world are suddenly reviving policies that look eerily familiar to March of 2020. Remote work mandates, travel discouragement, fuel rationing, all triggered by a rapidly escalating global energy crisis. All we need is a toilet paper shortage, right? Am I right? So let's wait for some kind of Easter egg, like a toilet paper shortage or some false flag event, which is slightly disconcerting, to justify new levels of control and lockdown. But this is what's happening. It's not COVID-19 driving the restrictions. It's the oil crisis. The oil crisis happened, of course, because, well, we're bombing Iran and Iran is bombing us back, and not us here in the US, but I mean, they are dropping bombs all over the Middle East. It is closing down the Strait of Hormuz, and this is why we can't move oil. And this is creating an energy crisis across the globe. Okay. But what do we know about what do we know about every crisis, whether it's COVID or oil or energy or AI, a terror attack, you name it? It's usually involving our own government, right? The calls are coming from inside the house. The government acting as the arsonist and the firefighter all at the same time, right? These are, and everyone knows it at this point. You'd have to be a moron not to see it. Honestly, I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. But this is what is happening across the globe. In Vietnam's capital, Hanoi, officials are encouraging residents to ditch their cars entirely, recommending public transit, cycling, and carpooling as fuel costs surge and petrol stations shorten hours. Pakistan, shifting large portions of its workforce to remote work, reducing office staffing to roughly half capacity, and introducing 4-day work weeks in some departments. Schools and universities in Pakistan are also moving online to cut commuting and conserve fuel. The Philippines rolling out similar measures, including 4-day work weeks in executive offices, expanded remote work across both public and private sectors to lower fuel consumption. Bangladesh has already closed universities to conserve electricity and transportation fuel, while Myanmar has begun rationing fuel by forcing half the country's private vehicles off the roads every day based on license plate numbers. Meanwhile, in the UK, as this spreads to Western democracies, motorists are now being advised to drive less, while authorities in India have invoked emergency powers to ration LPG supplies for restaurants and businesses. Let's just go back to essential and non-essential, right? The government shuts you down, shuts down your life, shuts down your school, your small business, because we have an energy crisis that the government created, right? And then they determine who is essential and non-essential. Do you think that Mark Zuckerberg is non-essential? I don't think so. You think Bill Gates is non-essential? I don't think so. You think Howard Lutnick or Elon Musk or any of the billionaire class surrounding this administration are non-essential? No, they're not going to get shut down. You're going to get shut down. And that's the equivalent of the federal government raising through, once again, small and medium-sized businesses, the regular person, to destroy them, to collapse their markets, and erase any type of competition from the entities that remain standing. Now, this isn't happening in the US yet, but we are seeing very similar language and recommendations that we saw. And all it takes in the US, what's it going to take? One false flag. All of the drones that are being deployed, this is all over social media right now. Conservatives, right? Predictive programming. They are getting you ready for some type of terror attack, probably via drones, so that you will beg the government to save you and protect you and be compelled to lock down again. We cannot lock down, period. Maria Z continues, if energy shortages deepen, these early conservation measures could quickly evolve into something far more restrictive. Again, Dubai is a ghost town, empty, cleaned out. The question is now obvious. Are we watching the first phase of global energy lockdowns? If the situation in the Middle East does not resolve soon, these measures may only be the beginning. I think Maria Z is absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. And we need to be prepared and ready to assume that our own government, our own hostile government, would be willing to commit some type of atrocity here in the United States of America in an attempt to drive us into a new round of lockdowns. And Tucker Carlson mentioned this just the other day on his program, but he wasn't really against it. You know, he's the framework that Tucker Carlson is laying out is that here we go again, Donald Trump bumbling and stumbling into a global crisis, into a war in Iran. And Donald Trump was tricked by his advisors because they told him that he could go in with air power and air coverage and get the job done. But the problem is that Iran is very capable of defending themselves. And all they have to do is sit down, hunker down, and survive. And so this is now putting the United States of America in a very tricky situation that could warrant boots on the ground. That brings in the headline that I brought to you earlier today about that Ron Paul is pushing out, changes in the language in terms of the draft. And we're not going to get into the details of that, but why are they changing the language about the draft? Essentially, this portion of the National Defense Authorization Bill is automatically signing up. It used to be you had to go and you had to register for social service, whatever. You have to register for the draft, every young man between the ages of, I think, 18 and like 26 or something. And at some point, you have to register. Well, they changed the language so that based on all of the data that they've already compiled on our kids, our boys, is now going to automatically and involuntarily register all of our boys for the draft, potentially without their knowledge or even their approval. And this already happened. This was signed into law. So here you have Tucker Carlson saying, oh, well, you know, poor bumbling, stumbling Trump got tricked into engaging in Iran by Israel or whoever. And now we're in it. And that's going to require that we put boots on the ground. But this is what Tucker says. The American population is not interested in boots on the ground in Iran. We're not interested in sending our sons and daughters into Iran for another endless war to be cannon fodder for billionaires who are starting wars for profit, right? And he's right about that. The polling on boots on the ground, the polling on the war itself is in the toilet, but boots on the ground is even lower. So then Tucker, though, says one more thing. He says, you know, the only way that Americans would go for ground troops in Iran would be if there was some type of attack, a terror attack on our soil or some major event. And oh my gosh, what would we do if that happened? Now, Tucker didn't say that we should assume it's a false flag, that it's our own government, that the calls are coming from inside the house. And this is where Tucker Carlson, at least in the clip that I looked at, omitted a major piece, right? Because we don't have to submit to fear. We don't have to submit and lay down the next time the government does something scary in a theater of war here in our own country as part of their own color revolution against we the people. We don't have to buy it. We don't have to be afraid, and we don't have to do it. And see, that would be the empowering message. I didn't see the whole clip. Maybe Tucker did say that. But from my perspective, he was setting us up for, well, now that we're in it, what are we going to do? Suppose we have to send the ground troops in because, well, we're so afraid of the Iranian terrorists. So this is how disgusting these people are. Mark the Regan. Trump was not tricked by his advisors. He was told by his masters. Selected service. Thank you. Selective service. Thank you, Guitar Lily. I mean, if you thought I went nuclear over my children being force masked, locked down, and threatened with poison shots, you just watch. If this president tries to send my boys or my daughter off to some godforsaken war, I mean, it would be chaining ourselves to a tree, hunger strikes, you name it. I mean, not happening. There's nothing scary enough for them to do that is going to lead me to say, oh yes, here on a silver platter, please take my son to die in your war for profit. You disgusting piece of, you know what? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's insane. It's insane. What do you guys think about all this? I see you guys on the live chat. It's just not going to happen. Listen, it appears that this war in Iran, it's real. Things are happening in Iran, but there are much larger factions that are battling each other. And this is also happening simultaneously as things are falling apart for the billionaire class because of the revelations in the Epstein documents, particularly the infrastructure of how to create a crisis and then profit from not only the crisis, but also the solution to the crisis. I mean, this was laid out by Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein in great detail. So we now have a template, a blueprint. We always wondered how they did it. How do you come up with the plans? How do you deploy the event 201? We always knew that there was a plan up there, but we never really saw it. These Epstein files reveal those plans and how they set up billion-dollar profit structures that essentially financialize or monetize the problem reaction solution, right? You break it and then you profit. You fix it and you also profit. You break it again and you profit again. You fix it again and you're still profiting, right? The reconstruction is profit. And that's what they want. That's what they want to move into now in places like Gaza and potentially Iran, because that makes money too. When you nuke a city, well, you got to rebuild. And there's a lot of money to be made when you're rebuilding, especially when you have moved an entire population of people into a technocratic, digitalized surveillance state where you can control them more than ever before, which is the infrastructure that they're building. And so in terms of the factions, I mean, there are a lot out there. Nothing about this war in Iran is front-facing or honest. Nothing about the justification for this war is front-facing or honest. There are factions behind it. As I mentioned earlier, the military-industrial complex, the intelligence agencies, the political factions. You have the financial industrial complex. These are the bankers. You have the medical industrial complex, tech industrial complex, and all of them now, as things are beginning to unravel, are competing for probably global dominance. That's probably what they're going for. Hopefully, for all of us, they just destroy each other. And we hunker down right here on the bottom level and survive, right? But they're conducting these things in theaters of war. So I mentioned the theaters: Gaza, Ukraine, Iran, Dubai, Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota, potentially the West Coast. We're seeing the predictive programming is already identifying what it might be. It's a drone attack on innocent civilians on the West Coast by Iran, right? So we're already beginning to see kind of where they might be setting up for these theaters. Mexico, Venezuela, I mean, they're all out there. And, you know, the idea here is the disaster, then the reset, then they build back better. So, you know, I think, and this is why I loved, at least that's my interpretation of all of this in a broad sense. and we can get into the nitty gritty of it. I have a lot. I mean, if you want to look at a lot of my sources, I push out on Twitter, and there is a lot of great commentary on that. But I do want to go to Doc Malik's statement because we have about 8 minutes left in the show. We're going to wrap everything up again pretty soon. And again, everything that I've presented here editorially is backed up by some of the best researchers and political analysts and geopolitical analysts out there. Again, next week we are going to have Michael Yan on. He's excellent. And we're going to talk to Emerald Robinson, who has done a great job in looking at this all from a journalist perspective. But this is what Doc Malik had to say about, in a broad sense. And I think it's pretty brilliant. And I'm looking at the live chat. If you guys have comments or questions, let me know. Oh, Fez Woody, Martin Armstrong would be a good guest. What was it about Martin Armstrong that I didn't love? I've heard of him. Again, as I've mentioned, finding the truth here is like, or like getting to the truth is like balancing on a pin. Ooh, Ollie Robin 9. Great to see you on the live chat. Glad that you are here with us. Fox Die Zero, great to see you as well. I will not fight or die on behalf of Zog, Magog, or Gog. I don't even know what those are, but yeah, if it's the elite class of governmental warmongering lunatics, I agree. But this is what Doc Malik had to say, and I'm going to reach out to Doc. I already did reach out to him yesterday on the twit, and we're going to see if we can get him back in. But this is what Doc had to say about what's happening in terms of perspective regarding the Iran war. And it dovetails with what Maria Z put out yesterday. He pushed out on Twitter yesterday, the Iran war is COVID 2.0. And I agree. Iran is already under the control of the globalists. I agree with that. I believe that a deal was struck weeks ago, months ago, who knows? Yes, there is an appetite for revolution among Iranian citizens, and they want new leadership. They want a new government. They want more freedoms. But I do think that much of what we see, not everything, but much of what we see in Iran is manufactured, including the U.S. war with Iran. He goes on, the war, in quotes, is the pretext to enact the major changes that they need to implement Agenda 2030. And Trump is all in, by the way, on Agenda 2030. He always has been. Destroy oil, push electric cars and electric everything, energy lockdowns and shutdowns, and renewable energy. Add in the financial crisis, and bingo, central banking digital currencies, universal basic income, trackable, programmable money, digital ID, and all of that will be the solution to the devastating lockdowns that it appears they're going to impose on we the people. I think it's imminent. He says, add in the energy lockdowns, 15-minute cities, et cetera, et cetera. The Iran war is COVID 2.0. It is a massive psyop within a psyop. That was his first statement. And then the next part of his editorial is actually even better because he goes to the who. Who is it? And we've talked a little bit about the who today on the Shannon Joy Show. These oligarchs, factions, power families that go back for centuries. They are center points of power that appear to be raging against each other, certainly raging against us, but also raging against each other. And the very simplistic ideas about who it is, the communists, the socialists, the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, Islamic terrorists, the Jews, Israel, all of those, it is way too simplistic in that analysis, right? That's not the case. And this is what he had to say, and he's spot on here. He says, in terms of they are not the Jews. They are not the Muslims. They are not the Christians. They are not the Iranians. They are not the migrants. They are not the boomers. They are not the whites or the blacks or the browns. Because this was never about race. This was never about religion. This was never about nationality. This has and always has been about power. They, says Doc Malik, are multi-generational psychopaths who crave control over humanity itself. They may practice Satanism or not. It doesn't matter. Their nature is satanic. They control the banks and the money supply. They manipulate economies, manufacture crises, and use social engineering as a weapon against ordinary people. Silent weapons for quiet wars. They have been waging World War III on humanity for several decades, and we are now just beginning to see the real picture in regards to what they have been doing over the past 20, 30 years. They pit brother against brother, father against son, husband against wife, left against right, black against white, Christian against Muslim, young against old, divide and rule. And as long as we fight each other and we never look up and ask the obvious question, who benefits? Who rules over us? Why are our lives becoming so painful and chaotic and unpredictable and unnecessarily difficult? It's not about right or left, Democrat or Republican. They're phasing Donald Trump out as I speak to you today, exit stage left. And they're moving to bring J.D. Vance, the techno-fascist in chief, in to enter stage right. They're already 10 steps ahead of us. The longer that we remain stubbornly in our factions and refuse to see the bigger picture, the more difficult it will be for we the people. And so I agree with Doc Malik in this assessment. He goes on to talk about the ways that they control using pedophilia, rituals, child sacrifice. Much of the information that we're seeing now revealed in the Epstein documents, allegations of cannibalism, and severe extreme moral corruption to capture and compromise their lieutenants, the people who run things. They capture politicians, celebrities, CEOs, influencers, 99% of the people that you likely see in the news headlines, on the television, on your movie screens, on social media. So many of them completely captured, monetarily or through compromise. It's a captured class that implements their agenda while pretending to represent the people, writes Doc Malik. The public sees the actors on the stage, but the directors remain hidden behind the curtain. They operate in the shadows, protected by money, secrecy, and influence. And because of that, they will most likely never be named, but they are being named, and we are beginning to see who they are. They are cowards who rule from darkness. But the moment that ordinary people, here's the hope, and this is why I have to get Doc Malik back on the show, because this is spot on. He writes, the moment ordinary people realize that they have been deliberately divided, that they are being poisoned and lied to, that they are being psychologically tormented, I'll add that one, and that their sovereignty has been quietly stolen from them, this spell begins to break. When enough people refuse to abdicate their personal sovereignty to the pathocracy, the system that depends on obedience, deception, fear, and division, it'll begin to crumble. It's already crumbling. That's the good news. You know, the fact that they are throwing one outrageous headline after another and one, frankly, ridiculous psyop or false flag after another. I mean, one of the best moments of 2026 for me was the people in Mexico and Puerto Vallarta, who went, in the midst of this, gangster cartel war that they identified immediately as a false flag, were like, screw that. We're going out onto the streets. We're not gonna lock down. I mean, it was beautiful. And it didn't work. All the gangsters went away. The cartel people went away. It was literally like a 12 to 18 hour operation. It was hilarious. We talked with the dollar vigilante, Jeff Berwick, last week about, he was there. He was an eyewitness to it. It was hilarious. It's great. But it begins to crumble, and they are crumbling. Doc Mallett goes on. The reason is that their greatest weapon was never money. It was never technology. It's not even power. It's not the military or their surveillance or their robots or their drones. It was our ignorance of what was being done to us, we the people of the United States of America, of Canada, of the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Mexico, Venezuela, Greenland, Iran, right? We're all just pawns in these wars that they wage largely and mostly against us, right? No good guys or bad guys in their paradigm. The moment that ignorance disappears, says Doc Mallett, the quiet war ends. What do you think of that? Amazing piece by Doc Mallett. And I love it because you always have, even with Tucker Carlson, right? Or Candace Owens or Nick Fuentes or Alex Jones, the people who are seemingly off the Trump reservation, right? They are regretting their decision to ever support Trump, and they're very emotional about it. And I don't know if you've watched Alex Jones lately, but he is off his rocker. I need to get some clips for you guys and play them because, it's a little bit crazy. But you'll notice, they always deliver 80, 90% truth, right? They'll occupy a truth space, but then they always drive us back to a great lie that some politician is going to save us. So we don't like Trump anymore, but let's usher in JD Vance, or let's bring in Ron DeSantis, or let's bring in Tom Massey. And I like Ron DeSantis and Tom Massey. I think that they're great, but I'm not going to sit around and wait for 2 years for another presidential election or 3 years for another presidential election when they are waging war with us today, right? Ron DeSantis and Tom Massey aren't going to save us. It's we the people from the bottom up. Massive decentralization, hyper-localization, the building up of infrastructure at the local level, state to state, statewide legislation, battling back against some of the really horrible legislation coming from the federal government, refusal to comply, peaceful noncompliance, refusing to be controlled by fear, the culture washing over them. Every single false flag, we refuse to be afraid. We remember what our principles are. We remember what we believe in, and we banish fear. We can do that. And none of those options are ever presented by the big guys, the big talkers, right? It's always some other savior. And even in the funding, okay, so everyone thinks that the Jews are the bad guy. That's, there's a lot of money there, creating that narrative that is racist, hateful, and disgusting. I know a lot of Jews, and believe me, they're not the ones bringing everything down. But you can apply that reason to all of the attacks against other groups, the Muslims, right? So what I love about Malek's piece is that he nails this. He nails this. Every time you see some hyperbolic, super narrow agenda item that makes you hate another person because of their race or religion or their color or where they live or how they worship, that should be evidence to you that even though, the content of that person's narrative might be correct and might align with what you believe, the poison pill is the divisionary tactic to take your eye away from who the real villains are. It is not your neighbor. It's not your neighbor with a Democrat sign in their front yard or a Republican sign in their front yard. It's that those two factions, Democrats and Republicans, are working together. And it's not just the bankers. You see everyone has an agenda. Oh, well, it's the bankers, it's the Rothschilds, it's the Rockefellers, it's the Jews, it's the Muslims. It's always this very narrow. It's not that narrow, right? And the most amazing part of this is that we can turn them off like that. Knowledge is power, right? Once the scales fall from your eyes, everything begins to make sense. And they have so much less control. And so I want to leave you guys with that today. We have we started at 12:15, so we have about 10 more minutes. Great piece by Doc Malik. I have led off with that in the show notes of today's show. I also have links for you for some of the other items that we covered. So in the show notes, just scroll down, and if you are signed up for the SJ emails, you'll get the show notes. Doc Malik, the moment ignorance disappears, their quiet war ends. The Trump Kushner associates cover up for sex trafficking. All of those headlines are there. Yeah, I like redacted news. Mrs. Lovely has a comment. Let's say hello to all of you. See, there you go, LT Oracle of Truth. Active shooter at Detroit synagogue. Yeah, they're going to be active shooters, and hard to know what is actually going on. But see, LT Oracle, with the big green flashing, that in and of itself is like, it invokes fear. And if there is an active shooter at a Detroit synagogue, then I will be praying for every human soul involved in that situation and move on from that. Nothing about that is going to scare me. Yeah, it just came in on my local news. I see you. Ollie Robin number 9 on the live chat. Well, let's have a chat before we close up the show. We got about 10 minutes left to go. What do you think about this piece from Doc Malik? Do you have any questions for me? Are there any headlines that you are interested in that you want me to talk about? Or do you have any comments about today's show? Again, next week, Emerald Robinson, we have Michael Yon, both ready to go and booked for the SJ show, full interviews with both of them. I'm working on Doc Malik, and I will also work on Maria Z, both of whom I featured today on the SJ show. Very good reporting and essays from them about the nature of the real battle that we face today and what appears to be lockdown 2.0, the energy crisis. That's what it's going to be. That's what it seems to be. That's where the narrative seems to be going. Fox Die Zero, great to see you. Every country exports and imports wars, not just the USA. Right. I agree with that. So Buskman, but what if it is true, Shay? I just missed the 9 people. Yeah. So Buskman is asking me, what if it's true that there is an active shooter in a synagogue in Detroit? If it's true, then officials in Detroit will handle it. And the people of Detroit will handle it. And we will pray for the people in Detroit. A shooting in a synagogue does not mean we need to pass federal laws. Doesn't mean we have to lock anything down. Doesn't mean we have to increase surveillance here or there on any other people. It's simply a horrible, if it's true, a horrible event that needs to be dealt with at the local level in Detroit. And that's it. That's it. H. Baird 36. Emerald Robinson is amazing. Fearless, another gal that I'm sure Steve Dace hasn't had on her show since he, went over to the dark side. I am firmly in opposition to many of the policies and the ideas pushed out on Steve Dace today, and that's why I'm probably not on his show. But there's no feud there. He can believe what he wants to believe. I think it's crazy, and I disagree. So Fez Woody is with us. Oh, I love your comment here. So Doc Malik's article is like heading towards the light at the end of a tunnel and then realizing it's an oncoming train. Well, no, things are going to get bad, Fez Woody, but things were bad during lockdowns. Things were bad during the Great Depression. Things were bad during World War I, World War II, the Civil War, the Revolutionary War. Do you remember the Blitzkrieg of London by the Germans? I mean, imagine this. The Blitzkrieg, if I remember correctly, was like 8 or 9 months long. And the Germans relentlessly bombed London like every single day from morning until night. They moved 70% of the women and children and population out of London into the countryside, but there remained a 30% to keep things going. And it was insane. People would wake up in the morning and head to work and realize that overnight their place of work had been bombed and everything was in rubble. Or people would work all day and then come home from work and realize that their apartment or their home was absolutely destroyed in the latest round of bombings, right? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the Blitzkrieg was where keep calm and carry on. You know, that famous British moniker that, the bombs are falling and what do? We get up, we go to work. We build houses, plant gardens, fall in love, get married, have children. We marry off our children, they have children, we have grandchildren, and you live. You keep calm and carry on. So, yeah, we're in for some tough times, but it is not the time to curl up into the fetal position or stick your head into the sand or join some crazy radical faction because you think your neighbor is the source of all these problems. We just need to know where we are in this cycle. And as I mentioned to you before, there are theaters of war. And hopefully, likely 99% of us will not be involved in those theaters. So where those horrible things happen, there's a good chance that you'll never be touched by that. The key here is to not fear. Air raids daily. Yep. I see you, Mr. Worthless Eater. HBear36. Yes. He says it's true. Michael Yon always says, and I really love Michael Yon, that we are all children of a long line of survivors. There is nothing new under the sun. It's Ecclesiastes, it's biblical, Solomon, right? The theaters of war, the wars and rumors of wars, it's always the same template, the same players, the same reasons. The Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. Go back 4,000 years of human history. This is why I always recommend go ahead and read the Bible chronologically. You will see this play out over and over and over, especially in the Old Testament. It is the same story. And once you understand where you are in that cycle, where we as a culture are in that cycle, you will realize that there is a rhyme and reason to it, and you'll figure out ways. You won't be afraid. You'll figure out ways to survive. And we all will. And that doesn't mean that there aren't terrible things that are to come. But if we find each other and refuse to allow ourselves to be divided, we're going to be much stronger. All right. Yeah, Mark the Regan. My sister was in Washington, D.C. recently and said that police presence is off the charts. Well, all the billionaires are heading to their bunkers, and there are many rumors that Pam Bondi and all the government officials are now in super secret, protected military hideouts because something bad is coming, and it's probably going to be bad. I mean, these people are vicious, vicious monsters. It's all laid out for us in the Epstein files. We know exactly who these people are, and they're in Washington, D.C., and they are Donald Trump and Marco Rubio and Pam Bondi and Howard Lutnick and all the people around him. And, they're just terrible. LT Oracle of Truth, maybe an EMP. Yeah, I've seen a lot about EMPs that people imagine that's an electromagnetic pulse. And a lot of people, when you hear about it, you think, oh my gosh, Iran is going to detonate an EMP over the US and knock out the entire infrastructure of electricity forever, and nobody can use their phones or their computers, and we're in the dark ages instantly. And that's how that's how it's catastrophized, right? An EMP attack. The last time I looked at the EMP, yes, it can happen. It's absolutely a real thing. They detonate a nuke up in the atmosphere, and it can take out communications, and it will take out your electronic devices. It's a great reason to go to the satellite phone store, by the way, and get some Faraday technology, because when you put your phones, laptops, or whatever into Faraday bags, they will not be impacted by an EMP. But that being said, the last time I checked it out, while EMP potential is very real, it's usually very short term, or somewhat short term, a couple days, maybe max, or 7 days, 8 days. And I haven't seen any evidence that they could literally wipe out the entire country. It's like small geographic areas. So maybe they could do something over New York City or Detroit or Los Angeles, but they couldn't do it at multiple times in theory, right? That I've seen. And it would just be really difficult to execute. So it certainly could happen. But this is why they have theaters, by the way. This is why when I say theaters of war and I talk about political theater, I mean it. It's not just Shakespearean, it's absolutely real. And one of the reasons that they have theaters of war is because they can't do it everywhere. They don't have the power. They don't have the money. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the equipment. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the technology, and they don't have the information. They want you to think they do. So they want you to believe that there is a mastermind up there and, that everything's going to roll out at once. It's not that easy. LT Oracle of Truth, North Korea has 2 satellites that pass over us 2 times a day called Shining Star because they are EMPs. I mean, maybe they are. I'm telling you guys, though, just be very careful with this stuff because, again, remember, fear is not from the Lord. And being afraid, there is so much fear porn out there, and it's designed to make you frightened of everything. Even the headlines that, oh, they're moving Pam Bondi into a military bunker underneath Washington, D.C., and all the billionaires are heading into their bunkers. That in and of itself is fear porn. It is designed to make you uneasy. Well, if all of these rich, powerful, in the know people are heading into their bunkers, what are they going to do to us? And they might do something to us, but you just can't worry about it. I mean, I just think about, this is why Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante, and what he and the other the Anarcho-Polko conference attendees in Puerto Vallarta did was so important. They literally, the headlines were blasting that there was this massive narco terror cartel drug wars, like waging war in Mexico, and they were dropping bombs and the airport was shut down. And I was looking at those headlines and they were very frightening, very frightening. And then I texted Aaron Day and I'm like, hey, you're in Mexico, aren't you? Is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, getting a tan, booked a couple of extra days in the hotel. I got a cabana, having a beer, looks like a false flag to me. Is what he said. I'm like, oh, interesting. And then you begin to see all, Jeff Berwick and a bunch of other guys going out into the streets where all the scary, scary cartel people were and the gangsters. And they're like videotaping them and like, what are you guys doing? And by that evening, in the morning, it was the headlines. By that evening, everything was opened up. People were in the bars and in the restaurants, on the beaches, in the cabanas, and it was like it never happened. The airport started back up again and everybody was moving around. Like, that's a very important story. A very important story that we all need to learn from. And it just shows. I mean, you have to push back against the fear with faith and courage. And that's what coming together helps us to do every day. All right. So that's it, guys. We are at 1 hour, 33 minutes, and the SJ show is about to come to a conclusion. Tomorrow, mark your calendars. If you are interested, 8:30 a.m.-ish from my home. I'll be broadcasting from home, and it is Coffee with Shannon Joy and the Bible, a little bit of scripture, a little bit of prayer. We're going to go behind the Rumble Premium paywall. So if you aren't a Rumble Premium member, make sure you sign up, and we're just going to have a little Bible study. And I'm so excited. I loved our Bible study last Friday. It was so much fun. And it's just a great time together. So make sure that you join us tomorrow for coffee in the morning, right around 8:30 a.m. I'm not going to do it every Friday, but in the Fridays that I can, I absolutely will. Zen Woman, have a great day. God bless this chat and the show. Thank you. Fez Woody, good show. Thank you, Fez. I appreciate that. Fox Die Zero, thank you for the stream, Shannon, and God bless. Appreciate you, Fox Die. Ollie Robin 9, thank you for being with us on the live chat today. And H Baird 36, going to try to be here tomorrow. Was scheduled to babysit the grands, but they have other plans now. Ooh, so excited. to see you on that chat. That's going to be awesome. All right. There we go. End of the show. Thumbs up, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you to our sponsors, Peter Schiff over at Schiff Gold, the satellite phone store. By the way, speaking of EMTs or EMPs, get your Faraday bags and your Faraday protection at the satellite phone store, sat123.com/joy. Always use the Joy promo code for 10% off. And of course, Don Polano over at PCM and Associates. That's PCM or PC Polano. PCMPolano.com is his website. We're so thankful for our sponsors. Get your Summit for Truth and Wellness tickets. Again, we have fewer than 80 left to go. We are selling about 5 to 10 every day. They are going very fast. It's accelerating. I'm assuming it's going to sell out. So this is on Saturday, next Saturday, March 21st. William Mackis will be here live. Dr. Mary Telly Bowden live in Rochester, New York. And of course, Sasha Latapova, myself, Clayton Baker, the folks over at AFA. It's going to be a great presentation with a beautiful luncheon after. And it's happening on Saturday, March 21st. I want to see you here. We have people coming in from all over the country: Canada, Florida, Texas, Ohio, Massachusetts. I've been looking at all of the registrations. People are flying in from all over the country to be at this very, very important event. And I can't wait to see you. Go to theshannonjoy.com today. That is theshannonjoy.com today and grab your tickets before they sell out. All right. You guys are great. Have a wonderful day. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.